Welcome back, recruits. I'm Chris Nance with the Northern California Ghostbusters, and today we are going to be replacing the stock Clippard, some of the wiring, as well as installing a little cosmetic cap that's going to let us install the new wiring. Greg has got this neat little custom light-up Clippard that we will show you in a future video how to wire into the stock electronic setup. Today we're just going to be showing you how to physically install it and replace the stock Clippard though. Let's get going. Just start with a simple Phillips head screwdriver. It was torqued so hard that the Phillips head wanted to skip. So,
damn it, faceless HasLab employee.
Yeah, in some of these cases, if it's a deep enough, Phillips head, you can get a skinny flat head in there, and that'll give you a better bite usually. But just try to go slow so you don't strip out your screw head.
And it just two scrolls holding it in from the outside, right?
Mm-hmm. All right, so stock Clippard gone. Now that that's out of the way, you're gonna see we've got two sort of posts. They're very low profile ones for the actual screws to go into. And then this big center post. Now this is gonna have to come away, and then we're gonna have to drill a hole big enough for that to pass through. I have what is called a step bit to do. Now you'll notice bunch of steps that go larger and larger as it goes, and you'll see it's actually measured out on the inside there for me. And what that's gonna let me do is I don't know the exact size, but I'm gonna be able to just kind of eyeball it and get it to the right size that I need it to be for this to pass through in there. Next step, now that we have access to all of this, I'm gonna take a pair of pliers, and actually, let's go open up the jaws a little bit. And there it goes. Just because I am ridiculous. On this side, I'm gonna take a little piece of sandpaper and clean up that surface just a tiny bit. So that's gonna make it hard to get the Clippard to sit flush. Next little step here, and you probably saw me kind of fiddling with this offhandedly as I was talking earlier. So at least one of these little terminal plugs is already loose for us. Most of these are not. They are kind of, I think they're glued in.
You have to plier them out, I think. So just plier them out.
Yeah. So
you have to be gentle. We have over a cup for it.
Exactly.
And this is just molded plastic. There's nothing else in here, right? Just molded plastic, copper wiring.
You can safely get pretty rough with it with your bare hands. It's not going to do any damage to you because it's just this soft molded rubber stuff.
Wow, why is that one so deep? Like it's like an inch in. Wow, that one's really in there.
Yeah. Here, let me get the rest of these out of the way first.
Man, how much glue did they use to index them in?
Dude.
What was so important about that copper wiring that was integral to the structure of the proton pack they needed it so deep?
I know, right?
2 hours later.
Just gotta really pull.
Yeah. I was struggling to try to get as many of this old molded in stuff out of these slots as possible. Now you can kind of clearly see, especially on this one where I've actually fully removed the bit, like you can see all of the glue that they laid in on this. Like it's an uphill battle. That said, the cosmetic plate that we have from Redman Studios fits right over top of all of that, and I think that's what we're just gonna go with right now. Next step here is gonna be to do some drilling. Now, I'm gonna take the back off of it before I actually drill, but before I get to that, so I have this tool called an automatic center punch. It is a nifty little tool. Let me see if I can find a surface to show you on. The pin in the front is actually on a spring, and it will fully compress. This might be a better surface for it. It will fully compress and do a snap at the end of its cycle. So, and you see that little mark? I say mark, but it's a little divot that's been left in the table surface. So that is what we want, because that, when you're working on a hard metal surface that is hard to drill into, that is a perfect little pilot hole. On softer plastics, a tool like this is actually very, very precise for A, finding your center point and marking it, and then B, on a lot of softer plastics, what you'll find is the spring in these are stiff enough to just punch a hole right through. So you'll actually be marking and making your pilot hole with this tool.
Now, if they don't have one, what do you recommend?
I recommend that you go to Harbor Freight and spend $3.99 on an automatic center punch. So, you can see, all I did was find center, which was a lot easier with this little circle around it, and the 2 posts on either side. So I really just had to kind of center in one plane. So that is going to be where I'm going to mark where I'm going to actually put my hole once I get this thing, the board off the back and turned back around again. Here's the inside of the Clippard disc. There is the post for the mounting screws. That's going to have to get drilled out to accept a 1032, which is the mounting screw on the Clippards. I have the hardware on hand to do all of that, but it is going to be fun getting to it behind this vibration motor mount. Also, while we're back here, I'm going to go ahead and take this interior clamp off. And we're going to get this part disconnected real quick so we can... There's the other end of that fake Clippard wire that disappears inside of the pack. Just wanted to make sure that we got that disconnected from its little mounting post in here before we advanced too far. While we were back here, do I have it?
I'm just putting the back bracket back on.
Yep, just putting the bracket back in place while I'm here so it doesn't get forgotten. As I mentioned before, I'm kind of trying to include all of these steps within the order of operations. So it's you kind of have to keep track of 1 or 2 things while you're going here. Next step is 1/8" bit, my marked out center point for the center of the Clippard. Now, I heard it it struck something behind there. Probably the post for the rumble motor, but I kind of want to... Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wow, yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
It's right above it. So for those watching, I don't care about the rumble motor. Chris and I were even discussing about just pulling the power from it entirely to power something else in the pack. So if this gets damaged, I don't care. If the one motor gets destroyed or removed, it's not going to bother me. But if it bothers you, don't do it this way.
Be a little more gentle.
Be more gentle.
Now that I have this 1/8" pilot hole in place, I've got a spot where you can already see, like, if I don't have it squared up, the step bit doesn't want to sit in the pilot hole. So, step bit, here we go. That might be enough.
Oh, pretty clean, look at that.
Yep. Done this once or twice.
3 times a lady.
Almost.
Oh, so close.
Yeah. Just taking this peg on the Clippard, and then because I have a wire bundle, I have to kind of... But I'm just using that peg on the Clippard to eyeball whether or not we've gotten to the right size yet, basically. We're very close. We're very, very close. Oh, it's so close. We're so close, Gregory. It's got to be able to physically go where it's supposed to go. I think that'll do, especially once we go like so. Haha.
Oh, look at that, beautiful.
Now, that's just dry fitting. Nothing is actually seated fully yet. We still have some work to do. Now that there's enough space for the center peg to pass through, what we actually need to do now is go to these side pegs where the screws are meant to mount to and drill them out for these big 1032s. All right, so number 21 drill bit. We are gonna get the rumble motor out of the way.
Let me get you over here so you can see it better. This is the rumble motor that Chris is working on right now, and he's taking a screwdriver and removing the 8 screws? 8 screws, so we can move it out of the way. Now, what's interesting is Chris has talked about it earlier about when we're curious what this connects to and if it can be completely removed without having any structural integrity compromised. Doesn't seem like it.
I think so. I think we're okay there. The connection for it to the actual board is just its own 2-pin JST.
Yeah, it's just a JST.
So it's just the 4 posts to get the rumble motor out
The other two,
with its whole box.
the other 2 are to get inside the rumble motor, I'm guessing.
The other 6 here, yeah, are for the box itself that's just holding the rumble motor. The rumble motor just has simple 2-wire lead to a dark green 2-pin JST, and it connects on the board at the marking M1. Like we've shown you guys before, it's pretty easy actually to just kind of pick and pull certain little contacts on the board here.
Plug and play. Right?
It is very plug and play, yes. And that's getting the rumble motor out of the way. Now with it out of the way, we have a lot more access to the Clippard disc from the inside, which is gonna make our lives a lot easier. Especially because if you are using a real Clippard, the footprint is not going to be quite right for the existing posts. So you really are going to have to kind of drill things out and expand it and possibly nut it from the inside. So I'm just going to take some flush cutters and nib that off.
And those are the posts to the original.
Yeah, that's the back. The posts on the inside for the original hardware. We kind of I want my access to be a little bit closer so I can, that is what remains of the posts there.
And those are to the outside Clippard attachments.
And then I'm gonna flip it back over here. And we're gonna get a little aggressive.
What drill bit is that?
Bigger than the hole was. I actually changed my drill bit approach midstream and swapped over to my long skinny step bit. That said, it looks like it ended right around a step above 3/16. So if you are not using a pre-made cover, now Greg has bought this pre-made Clippard disc cover from Redman Studios, but you don't necessarily need that. Something like Milliput would be perfect for filling in all of these. And you wouldn't have to be perfect with it. You could leave them kind of lumpy, and then once it was all fully hardened, come back over it with sandpaper or a sanding block and just smooth it and reshape it all back down. And it takes a little bit of work because you really have to sit there and sand on it for a while to get it to the right shape and where you want it. But you get really, really great results, and you can cut it, you can sand it, you can drill into it, you can thread into it. Like, Milliput is really great stuff, especially as like a filler fixer. things are not sitting quite as flush as they need to be for the actual Clippard screws to make it through the new plate, like little Clippard disc cover. And I think part of the problem are these little excess nubs that we have in place here. So in order to make the cup fit better, so things seat a little bit closer, so as to get the screws close enough to the holes to actually seat in, we had to go back and kind of remove a lot of the little stuck-in rubber bits from the old fake copper wiring. The ones that they were kind of just sitting high enough that it was all sort of making it hard for this to sit flush and actually sit close enough to the holes. So now that that is out of the way, I am pretty sure the exact problem that's going on here is the screw length. And because I have some 1 1/4 inch 1032s on hand, I'm just gonna go ahead and... So as you can see, that's gonna give me quite a bit more depth to work with here. I should be able to get down to the hole. Because the faceplate sits proud enough that it adds enough distance that the stock 1032 screws that come in the Clippard bracket are not reaching as far as we need them to reach, which is to kind of hold the Clippard on. What I've opted to do is I've swapped it out for a set of these 1032, these 1 1/4 1032s that I happen to have on hand, and then I'm going to take a set of 1032 hex nuts here. Let's see if I can do this left-handed. Running into that junk on the back. It's going to be good enough, I think. That took more doing than I expected. So, first and foremost, to get the plate cover, the Clippard disc cover, to sit flush enough to the HasLab pack, we had to make sure that we got all of the little molded in fake rubber copper wires out of there. Once that was actually taken care of, it wasn't causing the disc to sit quite as high, which was exactly what we wanted. However, the stock screws for the Clippard were still too short. Now, thankfully, I happen to have some 1 1/4 inch 1032 screws. That's really the only thing that you need to know is that it's a 1032 if you want to make it fit the little bracket that comes with the Clippard. It doesn't matter that it's called a carriage bolt. That's what this little style of bolt is called. It doesn't matter. You don't necessarily need to get a carriage bolt. You could just get a regular 1032 and jam it right through that little bracket space. As you can see here is what we have done. The other big thing though specifically is that because there are posts built into the shell on the top side and on the inside of the shell, it took a fair amount of kind of drilling and screwing. I believe at one point I used needle nose pliers to just kind of aggressively yank it right out. So it takes some abuse. You have to have some targeted abuse going to really get it in there. However, once you have those pass-throughs done, you can basically just flip the whole thing up on its side and use a pair of needle nose pliers or a straight handle socket driver. I like straight handle socket drivers personally. They're very handy tools. So I was able to hold it on one side from the inside and actually put those bolts on while screwing it down from the outside. And now voila, no wires yet, but custom Clippard is in place. And that is how you switch out the stock HasLab Clippard. So we're gonna do this the easy way and just take this all apart again. So once you have your wires removed and your Clippard removed, we're gonna take our Clippard disc cover. And this is the part that we're actually gonna be mounting all of our new wiring to. So we're gonna start by putting some holes in it.
Now this is the overlay for the afterlife wiring. If you want the, what do you call the safety pack wiring, it's different.
The health and safety pack
Thank
appears to be a little bit different, although not by much.
And Chris is just gonna eye this because he's a professional and I'm not a stickler for one-to-one screen accuracy. So if something's off, I'm not gonna be upset about it. But he is marking it with a Sharpie, just a really light dot so you can see where he needs to punch little holes in it. These instructions came with the SR Designs copper wiring mod that was available on Etsy. I do not believe it's available anymore, unfortunately. I will leave a link to his store in the description below.
1/8 bit. It drifted on me.
If you really want it to be super screen accurate, they have templates you can actually print out online and paste over it. If you really want it to be that accurate. I just want my pack to look cool and different. Once the things are drilled and you've made your workbench have some personality.
Okay, there's that part done. Number 3 hex key, and I'm just taking the big nut and getting the 2 C. There's a 3-wire bundle marked C, and that actually goes up here to the booster tube. There are 2 of them, and the screws that SR Designs included, you basically just take a hex key and like screw it right into the little hole that the stock ones pop out of.
Beautiful kit. Beautiful kit.
Yeah, very nice little kit already. I'm digging it up so far.
Just look at the difference on that already. Looks a million times better.
1.5 metric hex key drive. But these are the very itty bitty screws that are included with SR Designs kit. So specifically, because we're going with the Clippard disc cover, I'm ending up actually swapping out the hardware that we're using. So we are not using the stock hardware. I happen to have some M3 screws on hand, and those seem to be fitting just perfectly into place.
If you don't have the cover, you could probably get away with drilling it directly into the thing, but that involves putty, like we said before, and it's a big other process. This is much easier. And Chris is just following the clearly labeled instructions, because each one of the cables is labeled C, D, E, F, G,
Yeah.
A through G, basically.
Yeah, SR Designs gives you this very helpful little wiring diagram, so you can kind of tell where everything is meant to go and how it's supposed to, loop. As you can see, where I'm kind of starting here, we're not really tethered down to anything yet. We're just tied to the Clippard disc itself.
Getting the order in first. Also, I will say the plus of using a cover rather than drilling it into the pack is if you want to swap it out, have it be a modular pack. If you don't want the copper wiring on and you want the 84 look or the 89 look, this is a good alternative to do it as well.
So far, the disc cover is actually a thick enough material that it is...
No, it's actually holding pretty well.
Yeah, it's holding right in there pretty well, actually, which is a pleasant surprise.
So before we connect it to the main wires, we're just going to do this last.
Yeah, that bundle is going to get done last. The other bundle that disappears into the ribbon cable hole is I'm gonna get that mounted in first, actually. It's just slow. Take your time. A lot of little screws.
14 recounted, right?
Like 17, I thought.
Okay, so no, 17. Yeah, you're at 17.
Okay. As usual, a struggle.
Small screws in tight places, and we're using slightly larger ones, so.
And it is effectively screen accurate to have these terminals, these ring terminals kind of stacked on each other like this. That said, this is actually going to work out just perfectly, and I think it's going to look really good. So at this point, the only thing left are these last 3 wires that run from the booster tube down. These guys. And so I'm actually going to put the whole disc back down and the Clippard back in place, and let that hold the whole Clippard disc in place for me while I put the last 3 screws in place.
Okay.
And our last couple of wires, well, almost our last couple of wires. We have one last step after I get these 3 in place. One last thing. We still got one loose wire bundle here.
It's gonna be tight.
It is. I don't know exactly how I want to go about this.
Here, that's about as much as you have. You got it?
Yeah. Trying to find a way to get the copper wire through. I think I just have to
Unscrew and move some stuff around. Okay.
If it helps, if I do something like this. Wiggle room here. It's just made to loop right there, which maybe it is, but just directly with the bracket. So cool, fun.
How did you make room for the? Oh, I see.
I pushed one of the fake things out of the way, and it needs to be pushed back in.
Cable management. The connectors are getting pulled out. That's part of the issue we're having. So because they're not seated in deep enough. So see what Chris is doing right now is trying to like uncrimp
Trying
the
to
connectors.
open it back up again a little bit. Yeah.
Just jam it in and squeeze it down. Even if there's some exposed wires, that's fine.
The crimps on these ring terminals keeps giving up completely every time I fart, which is a lot. So we're gonna fix it later.
But this is the general idea.
Yeah, this is the general idea. This is what you're going for. All right, and that is gonna be how you replace the Clippard disc and Clippard, and also how you would replace your Clippard wiring. Don't forget to smash that like, subscribe button. No, but seriously, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Gregory and I need it.